Welcome to the best show about relationships. Become a free member on my website for my free 1-hour video, free advice, and much, much more. Subscribe and share this video and let us begin, shall we? Alright, what do we have here? Men need to stop blaming women for everything. Alright. Men need to improve themselves, learn emotional intelligence, do your share, stop treating women as slaves. Wow. The time where men had control over women is over. You can grieve, but you need to move on. That's why men are lonely. Women now refuse to put up with immature behavior because they don't have to anymore. All right, let's talk about it. Black and white days, the illusion of men controlling women as quote-unquote slaves, as this person is pointing out here, this woman. Well, it's not exactly entirely true. There were happy families and there were miserable families, the same as today. You see, history never changes because it constantly repeats itself. It doesn't matter how far back you go, there's always going to be failed families, full of abuse, all kinds of negative situations, tragedies, you name it. But just because there are failing families out there and failing relationships, it doesn't mean that you can name an entire past period of time the worst. And you definitely can't say it was a time of slavery for women, because there were many happy women as housewives, taking care of the kids, cooking with pride for their husbands. You're not looking at that. You're assuming that the black and white days was filled with nothing but abusive, cheating men, and you close the book. Well, that's simply not true. In fact, nowadays I would say there's far more cheating and far more abuse than ever before. But are there happy relationships nowadays? Absolutely. But unfortunately, and rather quite fortunately, we can't really quantify the percentages. I don't trust any statistics out there that say such and such percentage of households are abusive, are failing. No. Because unless you go door to door, which is impossible, to every single household, you will never have an accurate number. So be very careful what kind of statistics you choose to believe in. So this person here is just emotionally negative here, assuming that men today want to treat women like slaves. Well, that's completely false. Let's just get that out of the way. I would say men, the toxic ones, sure, absolutely. Like I said before, you can't change that. It's always going to exist. Toxic males who don't deserve to be called real men. Abusive males. You can't change that. It's always going to exist, just like toxic females. Abusive females. So, but you can't say like, okay, the loneliness epidemic with these men today is because, well, they want a woman to abuse and women aren't having it anymore. That's just not the case. While there are more women aware of abusive males now more than ever, that's great. I'm all for that. But you can't add fuel to the fire by saying, by participating in this foolish gender war by saying that men want to treat women like slaves, especially the lonely ones. The thing about the lonely males out there, the lonely men, is a lot of them are scared. They don't even want to talk about relationships with anybody, online or offline. They're scared. They are frozen stiff. And this happens 24/7. A lot of them drown themselves in alcohol or other substance abuse. And they're silent individuals. They don't talk much. Men of few words. There's a lot of cowardice. A lot of fear. A lot of emotional weakness. A lot of mental and emotional weakness out there. With this this lonely epidemic. All right? So that's that. This one right here is just emotionally charged, negatively charged. This comment. It's really toxic. It's simply not true. Let's go ahead and move on to the next comment, shall we? I'm not going to give any more attention to such a ridiculous comment there. It's simply not true. There are lots of men out there who are looking for a lovely woman because they're lovely men. All right, men, be honest. If you met a woman with a 0 body count, completely loyal and feminine, but she's a 4 out of 10 in looks, would you date her? Okay, let's just slash out the word date because that's ridiculous. I discourage dating. I encourage friendship. And if you guys could establish a great friendship, then you're ready to talk about girlfriend, boyfriend, okay? Skip the whole foolish acting dating game. Now, a 4 out of 10. Okay, let's take a guy and say, all right, I think she's a 4 out of 10. No, she's not your type. Physical attraction, chemistry must be there. It's a requisite. The body count is irrelevant. Men who want a virgin, that's ridiculous. Men who want a woman who hasn't slept with X, just pick whatever X number that you want. The body count. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. You're the next body in line. Is she ready to take you seriously, or has she finally found the one perfect for her? I don't know. So body count just doesn't matter when you look at it that way. Now, if it bothers you, how many men that she's been with or hasn't been with, with virgins in that case, then also don't establish anything with this person. Now, loyal, well, both of you are supposed to be loyal, but feminine is debatable. Do you mean highly sexual? Because a lot of men want a highly sexual woman by their side. They're interested in such a woman. So when you say feminine, do you mean dresses more feminine, acts more feminine? Because real men don't want a show. You can look great with the best outfits, with the best makeup, with the best looking body. But if you don't put out in the bedroom, and if you don't act respectful 24/7, and he gives you the same, then it's a no-go. A real man just doesn't really care at that point. He'll gladly just refer you to somebody else. And I think you need to find somebody else. We're just not a good match. Sexual compatibility is paramount. And just compatibility in general. How well do you guys get along together? So there's a lot missing in this. She says to be honest. Yes, I'll be honest with you. A 4 out of 10 is a no-go. You have to be at least a 7 out of 10, I would say, to give her a chance if her personality is golden. And then you might start seeing her as a 10 out of 10. Who knows? You're the only one who can judge with numbers. I don't necessarily deal with numbers. I deal more with compatibility. Because looks, it's highly debatable. The more you fall in love with someone, the more 11 out of 10 they become. That's the way love naturally works. You don't start off a great relationship by saying, well, you started out, honey, as a 2 out of 10, and now you're 11 out of 10. No. That's why I say it has to be there, the physical attraction. And it almost always is 10 out of 10. I mean, you can't say, well, honey, you started out 9 out of 10, now you're 11 out of 10. No. It wouldn't be successful because that one point is going to sting like a bee, like a wasp. You'll never be able to get over that. Really? I was a 9 out of 10? I wasn't perfect when you laid eyes on me for the first time? And it's never love at first sight. It's attraction at first sight. That's why it has to be a 10 out of 10. Now, once you go through the looks department, then you move into, because it's attraction at first sight, then you get into the personality and the beliefs and yada, yada, yada. How do you guys mingle together? There might be arguments, most likely, if you guys butt heads. But I'm not going to give you a whole book of knowledge because I've already done that. And for anybody interested, go ahead and become a free member on my website. You can find out more about that. All right, last comment of the show. Single women aren't lonely. They are selective. When your peace matters more than being chosen, you stop settling for chaos disguised as love. Okay, it's perfectly fine to be selective. But you are lonely. You do realize that, right? You are, in fact, lonely. You're being selective. But if your peace matters more than finding the perfect partner for you, meaning if you can live the rest of your life with that supposed peace, which is loneliness, disguised, by the way, as peace. It is peace, but it's still loneliness. You're trying to disguise that fact. If you can live the rest of your life without a partner and say, well, because I never really found one, that's on you. That's not on men, whether they're lonely or not. All right? You have to realize that. You create your own destiny, ultimately, because there is a guy out there for you. There's plenty of candidates, by the way. All right? So you can be selective. Just be careful not to be too selective on an unrealistic level, because then you really you blew it. You know, the bus ain't coming back for you anymore because of your attitude. You're being far too stingy, far too selective. Got to be really careful with that. Enjoy your peace and be selective, but don't be stupid and miss all the boats that have come passing by your dock. You got to pick one. And if you're too scared, then that means you're no longer being selective, you're being foolish. And you're being unrealistic. Foolish because you're going to end up all alone and you're going to end up full of regret. It doesn't matter how much you value and sing grace about your peace and pretend to be happy when you know you're not. And it's funny because that's the first thing she states here. Single women aren't lonely. That's the first thing you stated. That means it's the greatest emphasis. You're trying to disguise loneliness as being selective, which is false. You are naturally lonely because you're trying to select the right partner. Because you don't want to be lonely anymore. And then when you say here, when your peace matters more than being chosen, what's wrong with being chosen? Because that's the most beautiful feeling in the world. When you feel like your partner's chosen one. They selected you. You see, this is a very feminist comment here, a very sexist comment, disguised, by the way, as she puts it, because you're saying that only women are being selective here, you in particular, because you said matters more than being chosen. There's nothing wrong with being chosen. You're putting your peace, your loneliness, in front of that possibility of being chosen. By the way, you do have to say yes to somebody who's trying to choose you. I understand that. But you're putting yourself first. And maybe that's why you haven't found the right man yet. Because you keep putting yourself too first. Too much in that first seat. It's got to be 50-50 here. Maybe somebody wants to choose you and you're like, no, I'm the one who gets to choose. Like a little kid. Stop it. And when you say you stop settling for chaos, you shouldn't even be trying to settle for chaos in the first place. So that's just, you can just omit that. So it looks like she doesn't quite know what love really is. She thinks maybe it's like the drama, like type of scenario where everything's just drama, chaos. That just shows a lack of knowledge right there. That you don't know, that's why she says she's being selective. She doesn't quite know what she wants here. That's what I'm really getting by the way this is structured. So there isn't necessarily anything definitively correct here. There really isn't. This is just a lonely woman coping by her stubbornness to be overly selective. She could have just stopped in the first sentence, but she had to really rub it in about her peace being more than being chosen and settling for disguised chaos. So, she really has a chip on her shoulder there. It's okay to be careful. But by golly, don't waste your entire life with this type of, stern attitude. It's not going to get you anywhere, trust me. All right, if you made it this far, it's time to become a free member on my website. You'll get a free membership with free relationship advice and so much more. Also, drop a comment with the topic you would like for me to go over in a future show. Much love, everybody.